In progress.
And families, they were self-sufficient because of the limited need. But as the society grew, you find that the need were extended in nature. People had unlimited needs. So barter system didn't have its own courage to take it forward. If you look into today's scenario, barter system has its limitation because there are difficulties in terms of creating a standardization. But still then, if you look into certain specific incidences like the Indo-Iran Food for Oil program, where you find that the economy is having higher inflationary pressure. So in that sense, barter system can be a solution where the role of money does not come into the picture. But the evolution of money started with first with the barter system, then with the commodity money. You might have seen your grandparents exchanging with bronze coins. There were coins made of silver. During the time of Palatial Kingdom, exchanges were made with gold. So that was a commodity money. After commodity money, then the paper money took up. Paper money, say digital money, then cryptos. So that is how you have seen that money has evolved over an era of time. So now if you're last class when I stated about to define money, you cannot define money into a watertight compartments. So therefore money has its role and something which is widely acceptable and it resolve the meaning of the purpose, that is for acceptance in terms of payment make or for discharging any kind of business obligations. So therefore, whatever you may term it as money, it has to be generally acceptable. So acceptability is the first most criteria of defining money. Whatever you treat, it can be a paper money, it can be a digital money, but it need to have a universal acceptability. Then only you can treat it as money. And another purpose it should resolve your purpose of having a means of exchange. Then you can also treat it as money. So that is why essentially these were some of the common primary functions of money. So when you define money, these are something primary, which was there and which is also there. But money now is beyond the primary functions, like your medium of exchange. It acts as a standard unit of account because it is standardized. You can make it standardized. It is a deferred payment because you can, for some future kind of obligations, for a period of time zone of X, settlement can be done. That is why money is considered as a deferred payment. It acts as a store of value, but after demonetization, this role of money has been to a greater extent, not to some extent, to a greater extent, it has been limited. People do not hold money as a store in terms of cash or in terms of their wallets. Money has transformed from the wallets to the e-wallets. So therefore, essentially, when we talk about money, one needs to look into that who are at the supply side, who is generating money, and who are at the demand side, who is requiring money. Again, in microeconomics, you have studied whenever demand and supply interacts, there is determination of something, right? You determine what? You determine essentially what you determine.
Market equilibrium.
Right? Market equilibrium and equilibrium what? Equilibrium price and quantity. You determine that. But when you are dealing with money, what is the price of money? Can anyone tell no? What is the price of money? Money can be determined. Suppose market fixes up something, right? So what is that price known as? For goods, You determine a price. But for money, what do you determine? What is the price of money?
Ma'am, number of exchanges.
No.
Ma'am, value of money that people want to give.
No value of money. Okay, that comes on later on. But initially, what you tend to determine by taking the supply and demand for money, particularly, what you're determining? What every economy, what do they determine by taking off demand and supply for money? They determine a price, right? After all, this is basic thing. But in case of money, what is the price of money? Same demand supply function. Demand for money, supply of money. Sorry. Demand for money, supply of money. This is the quantity side. This is the price side. You fix up equilibrium. This is your equilibrium, right? This entails about your quantity, demand, and supply. This is a price. My question is, what is this called as? What is the price of money demanded and supplied? What do they determine?
People willing to pay that.
A value of the product or the service.
No. What is determined? In a market, what is determined?
Equilibrium price.
What is that price known as? Okay, fine. यहाँ पे तो मैंने लिख भी दिया है. But what is that you are trying to determine?
Demand.
Price
Demand
at which
to
people are willing to buy.
Just a minute. There is an important call.
Recording stopped.
Hello, sorry. Sorry, extremely sorry. Hello. Everybody, please be back. Hello.
Yes,
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Just
Interest
there was a
rate.
call from the director of RBI. I could not avoid that call, so I have to be there. So again, that is what related. What you are determining. So many hints I give.
Ma'am,
Right
is
now
it
also-
interest rate?
Of course.
Interest rate, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
इतना सोच रहे हो आरबीआई का हिंट भी दे दिया अभी मैंने is the market is not fixing up interest rate on the basis of demand and supply of money? And is it not the price of money? Is it not known as interest rates? Google search सब कर दिया इतने बीच में.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
कर दिया earlier.
सब पहले गूगल करने से पहले थोड़ा सा if you would have thoughtfully have a watch now in the market. When you are saying market में there is demand for money, there is supply of money. What you are determining? It is market rate of interest, na? Okay. Quick fix interview. This is placement questions comes like this. Okay. So work on all this thing. Fine.
Recording in progress.
When in an economy, there is a huge gap as far as the fixation of demand and supply of money, the interest rate also varies, isn't it? Either interest rate goes up or interest rates falls down. So after all, when you are determining the price with the help of demand and supply of money, you are determining the interest rates, right? So therefore, when we are talking about the amount of money which is in circulation, right? When you're talking about money which is in circulation in an economy at a certain given period of time, that is how you measure the level of money supply. And therefore, money supply has a very important role to play in the determination of price level, which is considered as the interest rates. And growth of money supply will certainly help in the acceleration of economic development. It will also help for price stability, and it will also ensure that the GDP of the country is also improving. All of them are interlinked. If the money supply comes to a halt, GDP will also come to a halt. So therefore, when the role of RBI or when the role of government comes to the picture in order to control the money supply, so what you are controlling, you are trying to regulate. You are regulating either the expansion or the contraction. So going by the economic cycles, when the economy needs more money, you will try to contract that. When the economy will try to have more money, you will try to expand that. Why you are again doing it? You are doing it so that the economy is not pushed down to excessive inflation or excessive depression. Because these are the two extreme peaks. If you remember our business cycle, all of you, we have considered that economy always moves in a form of business cycle or economic cycle or trade cycle, whatever name you may refer to as. So these are your business cycle, which is a wave-like manner. This is the steady rate of growth path. This I've discussed n number of times. So none of the economy will be interested to either operate here for a longer period of time, which is the peak, or here, which is the depression. This is the deep depression stage, the trough. This is the peak stage, which is created by hyperinflation. There has been many experiences in the past. If you look into the instances which has happened with Zimbabwe, Venezuela, which had suffered through a hyperinflation. Even a truckload of money could not buy a piece of bread. That was the situation was. And government was bound to increase the prices because they need money supply to get in. Currently, Sri Lanka's case is also similar. The government of Sri Lanka is bound to increase the prices of the goods. Why? Because it needs money to be generated into the system. How it will increase the money supply when the money is not generated through economic activities? Tourism is down. There is no other activities which was affluent pre-pandemic. So it can do so only by increasing prices. The burden is shifting to the consumers because through increase in prices, government will try to increase its revenue, which can work for the overall state. So none of the economy will either want this phase or this phase. So it will want to bring stability, and stability is somewhat near to this phase. So in order to bring stability, what is needed to be controlled? The money supply is needed to be controlled. That is what RBI does. RBI's work is to expand money supply, to contract money supply, apart from creating, that is printing money. That is a major, another function of RBI. And how does it do it? With the help of its various policy mechanism, your monetary policy, fiscal policy. So that is what, when you are trying to take up that money supply plays a crucial role. That is what is the crucial role all about is. You are trying to determine the level of interest rates. Inflation ke time mein, what should be the interest rates? When the economy is high with depression, how much interest rate should be fixed up? Is it not a decision which is being taken? And that is what is the ultimate objective of dealing with this module of money supply. Again, here you are going to come across various concepts of M0, M1, M2, M3, M4. So these are certain measures of money supply. Unlike India, every nation has these measures. The definition will not change. Yes, the degree of variability of the amount ratio will change, but measures of money supply does not change. India ka RBI is the one who is dealing with. US ka Fed is the one. That is, the Fed is the central bank of US. UK ka Bank of England is dealing with that. Every country has their central bank who looks into all this matter. So therefore, it is really very important to understand the various issues related to money supply, right? So when money supply comes into the picture, initially, you need to understand that what is the amount of money which is held by the public. Rather than calling it as people, let us put it as public. So who are this public? The public can be an household, the public can be the firms, the public can be an institutions. So this is essentially the monetary base. Every economy has a monetary base. Whenever you construct a building, what is created? You create a building of 10 floors, 15 floors, 28 floors. So for that, what is needed to be strong? The foundation has to be strong. The base has to be strong. Similarly, every country's foundation base is the monetary base. And that monetary base is nothing but it is the total sum of money available with the public in an economy at that point of time, right? So point of time is during that time period. So what does this include? It includes money held by the public, which is in circulation. But it does not include money which is held by the central bank or the commercial bank. Why? Because they are not money held with public. Money held with public means whatever currency, cash, which is held with the people during that time, that is what is the C factor. We consider it as the C factor. Cash, currencies which are in circulation, which is held with the public. Central bank, commercial bank are never a part of the public. They are a part of the financial institution. So what do they hold? They hold demand deposits, right? Now you and me, every one of us have an account in some of bank, some of the commercial bank, either SBI ho, ya ICICI bank ho, ya some other banks. So what is that we are having? Are we not having our demand deposits? What are these demand deposits? On demand, you can either withdraw or you can deposit as your will. It is flexible, isn't it? You can withdraw money either with the help of your debit card. You can withdraw money with the help of your check or by simple using a DD, demand draft, right? So is it at your flexibility or not? Tell me, is there any time imposed on DD, on demand deposits? There is no time imposed on this. It is completely your own flexibility. How many times? Okay. Now, due to the certain rules of RBI, they have imposed a restriction ki minimum 5 times. Usse zyada if you are doing it, there is certain amount of money, which is a minimum charges are levied on your transaction. At simple transaction cost is being imposed. But till 5, it is free. Yes. So that is what is demand deposits. Now, this demand deposits are created by whom? By the commercial banks. So that is the reason the separation of producer of money from the user of money is very important to understand the point of view of how do monetary policy works, which is backed by certain theory. And we cannot negate that theory. Can I negate that RBI, what are the roles which RBI is being subjugated to perform with? There is a sufficient theory backed by to the policy. Can I negate the business cycle? Tell me. Business cycle is a theory. But what is the policy? Policy is inflation ke time mein, which policy has to be used? Depression ke time mein, which policy is to be used? So that is where we are integrating theory with practice, right? So therefore, when economies try to drive into the various terms or measures of money supply, initially we start with the composition which is known as M0. So what is this M0? M0 is nothing but it is the monetary base of a economy. So what does this monetary base comprises of? This comprises of currency held with the public. You can put it as small c. Currency held with the public. So what is that? The currencies, the note, which are in circulation, and it is issued by the respective central bank of the country. Can you consider the old 500 and 1000 rupee notes as a part of C now? Can I consider that?
No, ma'am.
No, it cannot be. Why? Because at a given, the very definition which I gave you, at a given point of time, and if you look into this point of time, these are all banned notes. So that is not in circulation. Then if it is not in circulation, how it will be a part of the C factor, right? The number of rupee code notes which are in circulation, the small coins which are in circulation, that will compose of the C, which is currency with the public. Everybody get an idea about what does C means? Along with C, we are also taking up DD, which is the role of the commercial banks. So when we are talking about DD, it is deposits of the public, which is held with whom? Which is held with the banks in the form of bank money. Either you are keeping it in the form of demand deposits, or you are keeping it in the form of time deposits. Does anyone have a FD in this class? FD, fixed deposit. Apart from your saving deposits, is there any FD, fixed deposit? Okay. So what is the difference between demand deposits and time deposits? Yes, Avik. So Avik, you have an FD of how many years? And if you don't mind,
Yes,
if you can
ma'am.
share the
Most
volume.
probably 5 years, ma'am.
5 years. Okay. So now Avik is having an FD of 5 years.
It's very minimum, ma'am. It's
Very minimum.
Yes.
It is the lowest one. See, forget about minimum, maximum. Your point of contention is to understand. Okay, nothing, no offense, minimum or maximum. So suppose, when did Avik, when did you started your FD? Year?
ma'am, in 2019.
2019. So the start year was 29. What will be your end year? 5 years maturity?
2024, ma'am. Most probably.
2024. Okay. So that means, what is the rate of interest? Sorry. What is the rate of interest, Avik, on the FD?
This is somewhere between 5 or 6% or something like that.
Okay. So let us take as 5%. Okay. 5% of the whatever deposit which he have made. Let's take he has made an FD of annually of say 10 lakhs. Okay. So 5% of that amount will be the return. Clear? All of you? Now,
Yes, ma'am.
Avik will get the maturity along with the interest rate. The maturity will be on 2023. So after completion of that, then only if he's breaking the FD, he will get the total amount. But suppose he decides to break the FD 60 days before the maturity. So what will be the scenario? If
Some
Avik
amount
decides,
will be deducted from the maturity amount.
so it will be deducted, no? He will not get the full claim, which he is
Yes, ma'am.
supposed to, right? So that is what is a limitation or subject to the time deposits. So FD is a kind of time deposit. It will vary 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, depending upon, right? Whereas demand deposits are what? They are flexible. Time deposits are rigid. Why rigid? Because it is subject to that time limit, that time period. So banks has performed in the form of DD. So now our monetary base becomes what? M0 becomes C plus DD. Clear? Everybody, is it clear?
Ma'am, the every deposit who has the locking period, that we can count as a time deposit.
Of course. Every deposits which has a lock-in period, which is subject to a time, because there is time liabilities involved. Why it is time liabilities? Because you are foregoing that amount of money. That is why you consider it as a net demand deposit liability. But in return, after that period is over, you're getting certain interest. You're getting certain return. That is why it is considered as a time deposit. Okay?
Ma'am, time
So
deposit could be
therefore,
anything. Time deposit could be anything, like a mutual fund also with a time deposit.
everything. So nowadays, apart from your conventional banks, your shadow banks, which are the NBFCs, They are also operational into these actions, na? Your Tata Finance, your Mahindra Finance, your ICICI Prudential, Cholamandalam. What is their role? Are they not ILFCs? Are they not doing with such kind of time element?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it
Yes,
not
ma'am.
generating money through this process? So
Yes.
all these things are a part of this monetary base. So M0, is it clear? Okay. Now from M0 we'll expand, because monetary base is just a base. You are expanding by adding something to the base. So therefore, when we talk about money supply, traditional approach was it only included currencies, coins, which are in circulation. Time and again, I am stressing on the point, which are in circulation, because we are taking up the current time period and the demand deposits. Okay. But modern approach is something broader than that. What is the broad money? In case of broad money, broad money, of course, includes all these things, because this is M0 plus something, no? So you cannot eliminate M0. So broad money is M0 plus something. So what is that? It is not only money, it is also near money. Again, as the name suggests, near. What is this near money? Any idea? What is this near money? Any idea?
So which money in our pocket, like we have.
Ma'am,
वो
which
तो
may be
money हो गया.
liquid. Ma'am, which is not maybe in the monetary form, but it can be liquidated easily.
Very good, Avik. That is what is near money. The basis of a near money is how liquid it is, how easily it can be converted into money when you want. Suppose you have different assets. Let's take, you have a land, you have a building, you have jewelry, gold jewelry. You have gold bond. You have a certificate of deposit, CDs. You have a treasury bill. You have a bill of exchange. Right? And you have other financial, you have a bond. And a GSEC, government securities. Now tell me, all of these are assets. But out of all the assets, which one will be easily convertible? Or which one will be highly liquid?
Gold.
Gold.
Gold what?
Treasury bills,
Gold what?
bill of
Gold
exchange,
Gold bond.
Gold.
No, ma'am, gold, the physical gold which we'll have.
Ma'am, physical gold.
Jewelry.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, jewelry gold.
Comparison between jewelry and gold bond. Which one will have higher liquidity?
Jewelry.
No.
sovereign
Gold bond.
Aliva, there you are there in jewelry, in comparison between gold bond and jewelry. This is where again people are not having that means what, that outreach has not been significant. People think that buying jewelry is a good investment. Actually, it is not. Why it is not, do you know? When you sell the jewelry, you'll resell it to a jewelry shop. There is again 30% deduction or more.
Making charge.
You don't
The
get the
deduction
same value, right? But when you have the gold bond, you get the same price of whatever is existing. So it is foolishness to invest in gold jewelry rather than that of in gold bond. So when you talk about liquidity, a gold bond will have more liquidity rather than that of a jewelry. Of course, jewelry has liquidity. I'm not agreeing that fact. But again, when you compare jewelry, land, building, all of them they are illiquid because it will take time to sell a piece of land, to sell a piece of property. The time duration is high. But when you sell a CD, a treasury bill, a bond, a GSEC, a share, that is quicker, that is closer to liquid. And cash, सबसे 100% liquid is what? Hard cash. But now, since people tendency to hold hard cash has diminished, particularly after demonetization, nobody is having that appetite to keep money in the form of cash. Why? Because you never know when the government will move on into another step of banning. So that fear factor is not allowing people to hold money in the form of cash. But still then cash is 100% liquid. But when you talk about near money is all those assets which can be easily converted into cash as and when required. They have a quicker range of convertibility. They are highly liquid in nature, and that is what they are near money. And now society has moved on to near money rather than that of money. Okay. So therefore, when we include the traditional approach, which is your M1 of money, what does M1 include? M1 include what? The component of M0, right? Plus, we understood C, we understood D. Along with that, another component, which is OD. So M1 is C plus D plus OD. What is this OD? OD is other deposits held by public with RBI. So what are these other deposits? Let us understand one by one. RBI के पास कौन-कौन deposits रखता है? Undoubtedly, you are not keeping deposits with RBI. Who are the depositors with RBI?
Postal.
Commercial bank.
Very good. All the commercial banks, they are the depositors with RBI. Who else? All those financial institutions abroad. Suppose Bank of Canada have a deposit. Bank of US has a deposit with RBI. IMF, World Bank, they are having with RBI.
Yes,
Institutions, I'm talking about institutions, the leaders, the head of the institutions like Ambani, Adani. So are they not having the deposits with RBI? So all these things figure out to what? Other deposits, OD. So when you add OD, you're expanding the monetary base. Earlier we started with M0. Now we added one more component. Okay. So that is what is a case of M1. Again, another important factor, time deposits, they are excluded from it as it is not possible to draw a check against them. Check is always limited to what? Suppose you have signed a check. What is the lifespan validity of a check? Anyone? What is the
3 months.
minimum?
3 months.
3 months. 3 months, right? So that is why it is another important thing which one needs to understand. Okay. So therefore, all these near monies, which are apart from your coins and circulations, which is a part of monetary base, apart from your demand deposits, we are having financial assets of not only the commercial banks, but also the NBFCs or NBFIs. So these NBFIs are our shadow banks, which are operating now, and they are fully functional. All those employment which is happening, mostly these are on NBFCs. Have you realized? Tata Mahindra, Mahindra Finance, ICICI, Prudential, Lombard. These are what? These are all shadow banks. These are all NBFCs. So all these things are a part of near money. So therefore, those who are opting for finance in the next semester, of course, with IFM, you will learn deeper into how does bonds, equity, derivative, commodity market operate. But for the time being, a bond is something which earns considered as a fixed income instrument, and it represents a loan that is made by an investor to the borrower. Typically, the borrower can be a corporate or a governmental organization, and the bonds are used by the companies, municipalities, state, sovereign government to finance the project. Again, the raising of funds are usually done through bonds, right? हम लोग अगर market से पैसा उठा रहे हैं, they are giving certain collateral, right? You give the collateral as a house or a property. I give a collateral, the bond, which will have good acceptability. Tell me, which one will have a good acceptability in the market? The collateral in the form of house, property, or the collateral in the form of bond? Of course, it will be a bond.
Bond,
Right?
ma'am.
So companies, what do? They raise fund from the market by against the collaterals, which are the bonds. Is it clear? So when we talk about essentially the various measurement, so the measurement of money supply starts with M0 as the monetary base, and therefore RBI has adopted all these four concepts of money supply. So these concepts are otherwise called as what? They are otherwise called as the measures of money supply. Why they are called as measures? Because they are essentially measuring that to what extent in an economy is the money supply increasing or it is not. Okay. So these are essentially the measures of money supply. We studied about M0, we studied about M1. Is it clear? Everyone over here,
Yes, ma'am.
is it clear? M0, M1?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, why is
Yes,
the property not taken as a good way of as a collateral?
Which one?
Ma'am, you just asked na that
Property.
whether property
Okay.
or bonds.
Okay, let me tell you, give you another example. At certain instances, यहाँ पे भी logic है वही demand and supply. जो demand and supply अच्छी तरह से समझ गया है ना, this is how you can relate this here. Property, which is having high demand. Let me give you a very, very simple instance. 20-25 years back, nearby that Kid Square, it was a dense forest. You find all your Jews which are in animal in the Nandan Garden, they were all roaming around like a free hand, and now they have been behind the box, which they are not actually liking it. But that has been the situation. But what caused the development nearby this Patia Square, this area? The reason?
State University.
People
Kate University, of
buying-
course.
Hmm.
So those who are the local inhabitants of this area, right, those who had got landed property due in this area, overnight they become richy rich. Yes? Why they become richy rich? Because they started establishment in terms of creation of economic activities. Because whenever a parent organization starts, it also gives alignment to other economic activities. The economic activities is many things: banks, hotels, businesses. So people sold their properties. At that time, the demand for that piece of land was really high, and slowly it has increased. But as you know, landed houses, landed properties, they have a stagnation. More demand, less supply works out well. Price increases. More supply, less demand, price will crash. So therefore, if I look into time period now, property value, you will say that it is increasing. But just see the rate of increase. What is is it at a geometric progression or it is at an arithmetic progression? The increase in the prices in comparison to a gold bond, in comparison to treasury bills, the value of property, is it increasing at a geometric progression? Geometric progression is n to the power. Arithmetic is nothing. So therefore, properties, gold, jewelries, commodities, they are having restrictive liquidity in comparison to financial assets. If you have the share of a very rising company, say X, you have 100 share of that company, immediately when you see that share price spikes up, you sell that. That is quicker. That is easily convertible. But converting a house or converting a piece of land into cash, it's really difficult and it takes time. That is the reason why I stated, even though they can be, I'm not denying the fact that they cannot be convertible, but in comparison to all these assets, its degree of liquidity is less. Maybe if all these assets are highly liquid, inka liquidity will be greater than 90%. Greater than if hard cash is 100% liquidity, this all will be greater than 90%. Jewelry will be 80%. Land will be, say, 70%. Are you getting it? So in the case of descending order, if you find out, if you make a comparison across all the financial assets, the land and property will be the least liquid asset. So that is how one can read the difference between money and your money. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So we did with the various measurements from money of M0, which includes C plus E, that is currency in circulation. Time and again, I am defining it is in circulation, and the money which are put in the form of the drafts, demand deposits with the banks, they are a part of M0. But M1 is a step ahead of M0, which not only includes C plus DD, but also it includes OD. So we have explained what OD is. Okay, OD is other deposits which is held by with the RBI. Other deposits which institutions held with RBI. Other deposits which other countries have a holding with RBI. So these are all coming under the category of OD. And it coins out the term which is known as M1. Okay. Now, post demonetization. Suppose if you are asked that what is the impact of M0 on velocity of money, what will be your answer? Post demonetization, what is the impact of M0 on the velocity of money? Last class we learnt about velocity of money. Now can you make
It increases, velocity of money increases.
It will decrease.
Siddhant, you are saying increases. Why?
Okay.
Why velocity of money
Ma'am,
increases?
it will decrease.
Think again. Everyone, it will increase or
Ma'am,
decrease?
ma'am, if currency,
No. I forget about Google Pay. तो इस M0 में है ही नहीं.
ma'am, if
I have not included
currency,
Google Pay. Google Pay is something beyond. The Google Pay is not here right now. अभी मैं तुमको situation, what did I give? The situation was post demonetization. Right? So you understand what was the post demonetization. Post demonetization, what would be the impact of M0 on VM? Velocity of money.
Ma'am,
It
less
has increased.
Ma'am, it will decrease. VM.
decrease because the currency, the
Currency in circulation is less.
500 and 1000 will remove. That's
Exactly. Have you not noticed the currency C, which was held in cash in hand, it has come down? The people motivation to hold money in the form of hard cash, it has come down. Maybe the circulation has increased because of e-transactions. But we'll come to that e-transactions. But when it is talking about only currency, here currency means coins and notes, which are in circulation, which is the monetary base. So if it comes down, BM will also be means negatively affected, na? But if I replace my currency with e-currency, then your answer will be inverse. E-currency transaction has been more, so velocity of money has increased. But if it is not e-currency, then the relationship is direct. M0 falls, velocity of money also falls. Okay, so that is what is the kind of linkage you can make it out. Now come to M2. So what does it M2 means? M2 is a broad money. It's not, sorry, M2 will not be now considered broad money, M3. M2 is what? M2 is M1 plus the saving deposit of the people, which is held with the post office banks. So if you remember earlier, when people used to write letters, the post office had the role. But after the position which has been taken up of letters by emails, by social media, by all those platforms, what has happened to the post office? For a certain period of time, IPOs suffered like hell. Employment was badly affected, isn't it? So what did government do? Government converted the post office into banks, the post office saving banks, and the kind of saving deposits which are done with the post office. Again, the government made it very clear कि जिनका भाई post office deposits होगा, they will get an income tax benefit as well as a minimum interest rates on their postal savings, isn't it? So that is what is M2. M2 includes whatever components you had with M1, along with those components, plus this saving deposits of the people which they hold with the postal saving banks. Because the small saving deposits, they are not as liquid as that of your demand deposits. Post office mein, agar you have made a fixed kind of deposits for a period of 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, can you take it out? You cannot take it out. NPS, abhi NPS banks are also doing, but earlier NPS, now also post office are doing NPS, no? National Pension Scheme deposits that are done by post office. So all these things, is it liquid? And NPS, is it liquid? It is not liquid.
No.
You cannot treat them as a liquid because these are all subject to a time deposits. And something which is a time deposits cannot be treated as a liquid. When you are calling something as liquid means easily, without lesser effort of time, that will be converted into cash. So M2 is understood. Now coming to M.
Can we withdraw the small saving deposit before the maturity to get our money?
वही तो मैंने अविक के केस में वही बोला, वही एग्जांपल आई वाज गिविंग ना. अविक केस में same thing I told. I think you missed that point.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Here
told
also
that
there
if-
will be deduction, right?
हाँ.
Yes.
Here
ma'am.
also there will be deduction. Yes. So if you are withdrawing anything which is frozen to a time period, if you are withdrawing before that, you are subject to lose that amount of benefit which you are actually supposed. So any kind of investment which are subject to time, that are all after maturity. That should be after maturity. Before that, if it is done, then you lose out. That is what is the situation. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next, M3. So this is a very simple thing, fundamental thing, and it is a part of our day-to-day lives. Everything, all these concepts is a part. If you have minutely observed the economy, it is very much existing in the economy. M3 is broad money. Why it is broad? Again, M3 is what? M1 plus time deposits with the banks plus euro dollars. So euro dollars is something which are associated with the other currencies, international currencies. The reason of putting euro dollars is on the basis of the universal acceptability. Euro and dollar still continues to be the strong currency, isn't it? In terms of its stability, in terms of its power. But the concern which Biden is right now having, what is the major concern? When the international transactions are not done in dollar, demand for dollar will crash. So if demand for dollar will crash, dollar value will depreciate, isn't it? So that is the major concern. When China is now coming with an aggression, it will be using its own currency for all form of international transactions. Then this currency will suffer, na? Dollar will majorly suffer. And that is what is the fear of world superpowers are, because they are superpowers on the basis of their currency only. So broad money includes M1, time deposits with the banks and euro dollars. Okay. And as earlier stated, time deposits are not as liquid. However, loans from the bank can be obtained against them, and they can be withdrawn anytime by foregoing interest. So the question which Aliba right now you asked, of course, if you want to take a loan against your time deposit, you can. But you have to forego interests because you are withdrawing before a maturity date. Right? Suppose a bond. You have a bond, you have purchased a bond which maturity period will be 5 years. But you want a loan equivalent to the amount of the bond. So what will you do? You have to take out your bond. Against the bond, you will put the bond as a collateral for taking loans from the bank, isn't it? So if you are taking out that bond, will you not be foregoing the interest?
Yes.
Certainly, yes. So that is how time deposits are liable. That is why certain times they are considered as liabilities. When they become a liability, if they are withdrawn before a certain period of time, they turn out to be a liability. Okay. So is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
यहाँ पे I was expecting another question from everyone. I hope you missed it then. What is the question? मैंने M3 क्या लिखा है?
M1.
M1 plus time deposit. Isn't it? Should it be M2 plus time deposit? No. Why? Because this is already here. I am not including M2. M2 होने से it will also include saving deposits. That is why the formula here is correct. M1 plus time deposit with the banks. And M4 is what? M4 is M3 plus total post office deposits. So what is this total post office deposits? Total post office deposits not only include saving deposits, but also time deposits of the public with the post office. Now, अगर मैं M2 लेती, this formula would have been wrong, na? Because here I am taking M3 and M3 excludes that saving deposits, isn't it? This M3 excludes that saving deposits. So that is the reason you have taken up total post office deposits, and this total post office deposits includes savings plus time deposits. Clear? Okay. So all these 4 measures is clear. 4 measures of money supply. M0, which is the monetary base. M1, which is an addition of other deposit to the monetary base. M2, which is the M1 plus saving deposits, only saving deposits. M3, which is M1 plus dime deposits, along with exchange reserves of international currencies. M4 is M3, whatever components you had in M3, plus total post office deposits. Now, eventually, over the time period, particularly past 3 to 4 years, you might have noticed that the gap between M3 and M4 has disappeared. Any reason to this? The gap
People,
between M3 and M4 has disappeared.
People are depositing less in the post office
Post office.
because the interest rates and are very less and the inflation is rising. So people prefers to take that out.
Or any other
Yes,
reason?
ma'am. Earlier, post office used to give higher rate or much higher rate of interest compared to banks now, which are more or less the same.
Exactly. Savings rate has been drastically reduced. So again, attractiveness for an investor is, why would a people invest? To earn
Because of
interest rates,
interest.
na?
Yes.
So for an investor, the most attractive factor is interest rates. Okay, you will say that you will get a tax benefit, but to what extent? To what extent am I getting a tax benefit if I am depositing my money with post office? So slowly, what is happening? People are withdrawing money. They are investing in certain other financial instruments, which will fetch them higher money. And that is what, particularly if you look into the youngsters, particularly the working group, they all look for quick money. They have a very lesser degree of patience to wait. Again, this is a survey which was done. It was found that the old generation, they will tend to, this is again an investor's attributes. In behavioral finance, I do teach about all this investors profiling. If you look into the classes of beyond the age group of 60, 65, they will be interested to invest money where? In safer zones, because the risk appetite is more or less, it is less.
Less.
They will be risk averse. But if you look into the age group, particularly 25 to 35, 40, not even 40. So what you will see there, investors profiling. They will try to invest in certain assets which will make them quick money. So that is what, and since maximum, most of the population, as far as India's demographic is concerned, falls into this category. And if this category withdraws money from post office, they do not invest, and they invest in other portfolios, don't you think that the gap will be minimized? Gap will be removed? Hakina? So these are all essential reasons why you will see now, technically, there is no difference between M3 and M4. The gap between M3 and M4, it has minimized. Okay, this is again.
Ma'am, what is the difference between deposit with bank and deposit post office? Both are more or less the same, no?
See, no, not at all. Deposit with SBI and deposit with Indian Post Office, is it same?
No, not FDI, ma'am, but all the other commercial
See,
banks.
under the RBI Act, commercial banks, they are given the rights to work as bank. But shadow banks, they are shadow banks. Do they act completely like banks? Do they have the rights? No. Similarly, post office, after the closure of mails, that postal services, post office were converted into banks. And that is named as postal saving banks. If you'll see, if you'll also visit the post office near Kit Square, only official letters you will find, which is coming and going. But apart from that, apart from the official letters, what do you find? The most of the transactions which the Indian IPOs, which is Indian Postal Services, they provide is on savings deposit. So that is how, that is the difference between the regular banks and post office banks. Post office bank do not involve in the activity of borrowings, lending, do they?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They do not, na? Whereas your regular commercial banks like SBI, they are involved in the activity of borrowing and lending. इसलिए उनको postal saving deposits बोला जाता है, because the basic purpose is you are putting your money as a saving deposit in post office. Okay, but past 2 to 3 years, what we have significantly seen a drop, and that is the reason why you find that the gap between M3 and M4, it has lessened or it has disappeared. Okay, so with all this, when you are determining the size of the money multiplier, again, as we studied about this thing, investment multiplier, government expenditure multiplier, foreign trade multiplier, right? Similarly, money multiplier. Now, who will multiply? All this monetary base, M0, M1, M3, M4 multiply hoga na? You will try to find out the multiplier impact of this. That is what is the money multiplier. To what extent money has the capacity to multiply and infuse into the economy. If I take up the monetary base, only C, P plus D, the multiplier impact will be more or less. And if I take off the component as M4, where the multiplier impact will be more, in M0 or in M4?
M4.
Of course, M4, na? Because M4 is a broad component. M4 is a broad money. M0 is a narrow money, is the monetary base. So multiplier impact will be more when it is a broad. And how quickly the money multiplies. So this is what is the multiplier effect is. So before we end, there is a small caselet going by a current scenario. Again, this is a reading assignment, and in also interviews, particularly, also you are asked with certain situation, and based upon that situation, you are coming to a conclusion. So this I will be uploading in your Google Classroom. Please have a reading, just one page, okay? And there is a question, because based upon your reading only, I will go through with the discussion. And in your end term also, you are expected to get certain case-based question. So as you missed out in midterm, 3-liner, don't miss it out for end term. Even if it is a 2-liner, 3-liner, it has a deep meaning to that. Okay, so please go through this case, and on the basis of this, we'll have a discussion in our next class. But I would request everyone to be present and to give their views on that,
Recording
because
stopped.
it is essentially required. Okay. Yes, Bhaskar. हाँ. See, you're talking about stagflation in which country? India is not going through stagflation. Pretty much economic activities are on very full swing. Stagflation matlab kya? The term stagflation is accompanied by two terms. Slow economic growth and so, which is the cause, which is the effect? Exactly. Okay. So this term, which is stagflation, it is a combination of stagnation plus inflation. Stagnation accompanied by inflation is what is known as stagflation. And it is the worst of worst crisis which any economy can face. That means you are not only facing a stagnation means there is no output, no employment, your entire economy has come to a halt, right? There is no circulation of money. So that is what is a stagnation is. But at the same time, what is happening? The government has to increase the prices. Why? जैसे कि अभी situation with Sri Lanka, the government has to increase prices. Why it has to increase prices? No, not rise in cost. This is due to the government has to fill up its activities, revenue. Government के पास पैसा कहाँ से आएगा?
Ma'am, because the economic activities are very low right now in Sri Lanka, that's why the government is not earning any revenue.
So government has to collect revenue, na? And how will you government collect revenue? Through inflation? Now government if increase prices, the money will go to the exchequer of the government. So in the case of say, India, if you say India, we are not in this stage. We are doing pretty much good. And inflation is also somehow controlled. Inflation का हम लोग का limit है ±2%. Moderate rate of inflation 6% per annum. So 6% plus -2. So we have the capacity to absorb if it is +2, 8%, if it is -2, 4%. Right? So we are managing pretty much good in that way, even if we are affected indirectly. But yes, if you'll ask me about Russia, the consequence over them, because they are now pulling out all their reserves for this thing. So slowly, their reserves are getting empty, isn't it? And they have to take help of others. So when China aided Russia with the help of all those arms ammunitions, that is itself a great signal for the economy losing out its reserves. So when economy is in stagflation, that is a serious concern. How to address that? That means you have to have a combination of such monetary and fiscal policy which will address both of this. And again, currently, jab tak the war is not ending, there cannot be any intervention. Nobody can help it. Neither the monetary policy nor the fiscal policy. After the war ends, then only this will take up. Because this is a completely a different reason altogether. तो जो इंडिया का तुम बोल रहे हो stagnation, India is facing through stagflation, that is wrong. That is not correct. Nowhere you will find that India is right now going through stagflation. Bhaskar, have you read out somewhere India is going through stagflation? Again, inflation, what I am saying is inflation will not rise in the case of even if crude oil price rise. क्यों नहीं rise करेगा बोलो तो? Again,
Russia will be providing a crude oil in some discounts like 25 to 27%. So it will be managed like the inflation will be managed as per now. I guess.
This is one reason. Another reason is taking core inflation rate. Core inflation rate हम लोग figure जो है वो core inflation है. What is that core inflation? How many times it was told core inflation? Core inflation rate may we are excluding the energy prices, crude oil prices, no? All those prices which are highly volatile in nature, we are just taking it out in our inflation computation. So if I take out all those items, will it be that my inflation rate will increase?
No, ma'am.
My inflation rate will remain the same, na? So that is why I'm saying India case mein figurative way mein, yes, as consumers, I will be feeling the pinch on my pocket because prices are of course rising. I will be paying more if petrol prices rises from 100 today, which is 106, maybe for 110. But still then we will see that inflation rate is 6 to 7%. And we will be happy with it oh, we have controlled inflation, which is actually not. And that is what is a misery. Bhaskar, I think I have given your answer. So inflation rate हम लोग बोल रहे हैं जितना rate में we are expecting it will rise, it will not be projected. And another important thing which you will notice that post-election again prices will rise. Every item post-election prices will increase. But still then you will see that inflation rate वही बोलेंगे 6 to 7%, 6 to 7%. How? Is it not contradictory? How means what? How means you are treating core inflation. That is the answer. And as long as I take core inflation as my inflation rate, my inflation figure will be pretty much normal. समझ में आया अभी? This is real economics. Clear? Nirbhik, recapitulate the session today before we move with attendance. Nirbhik,
Yes, ma'am.
so your takeaways from today's session.
My takeaways about today's session was that recently the fact that Russia was exhausting its natural resources and China came to aid it, and therefore the prices of crude oil and the essential items and resources such as nickel, oil, coal, and petroleum, etc., that are not going to rise too much because Russia can give us a discount on that. And ma'am,
But before that, what else we discuss? Prior to that, this was now. But what was today's session all about on? Prior to that, prior to that, what we discuss?
don't remember that.
Don't remember. My